Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. And for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or watching this channel for the very first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense is because here on this platform we discuss everyday issues. And we try to find logical solutions. But not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called uncommon sense. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that Keisha was the first one into the chat. Good evening, and congratulations on your daughter on her moving up or moving on or graduation ceremony. I mean, I'm sure you're very proud of her, and it is a very happy occasion. Okay, so want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So, what I like to do is, first of all, give a huge shout out to all those who have already subscribed to the channel, whether it be from the beginning or just recently. Thank you very much for the support. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, whether it be Facebook, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Twitch, whether it be TikTok or any other source of um, social media. And I want to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter into your devices. So, what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. If you have not done so, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification to all. So, therefore, whenever I do go live, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on playback. So before we get into the main topic, there's something that we're going to need to discuss in my words. So just give me a moment. Okay. First of all, we have some sad news to report. Okay, most of us have been hearing nonstop regarding the situation with the five men who gone on this Titan submarine thing. Okay, and they decided they're going to get on this device. Okay, which has not been tested. Okay, which there were questions regarding how it was made and whatnot. And the crazy part is each of these individuals paid $250,000 to get into basically, for lack of a better term, two huge refrigerators welded together, okay, and then controlled by some sort of a joystick device. Okay, first of all, um, they went down on this device, and the whole purpose was so they can see the wreck of the Titanic. Now, mind you, there have been underwater cameras that have taken um, video regarding the wreck and what have you, and there have been numerous movies regarding the Titanic and everything like that. For the benefit of those of you who have no idea what all this about, there was a passenger liner that was built on this maiden voyage called the Titanic, which set sail from England to arrive in the United States. Unfortunately, this ship, which hit an iceberg, and as a result, unfortunately, the boat split into two and then sunk, killing hundreds of passengers and crew. Okay, And this happened in 1912. Yeah, good evening, Joaquin. Thank you very much for stopping by. Now, for reasons, I'm still trying to figure out why grown men. Okay, I granted these men are billionaires. Okay, I grant it. I understand it. Okay, but my this is what I having a hard time grasping the concept. So you're talking about you have five men who are billionaires, okay, and each decide not only pay a ticket worth $250,000 to get on this contraction, but to sign a whole bunch of waivers. Yeah, I agree. You know what? I agree. It was unfortunate, and you know what? And I'm sorry, but it was not worth it. I mean, look, if you really wanted to take a look at Titanic, okay, what you could have done is, first of all, you could have used droids and other devices where it can actually travel thousands of feet without worrying about the water pressure or drowning or what have you. No, what these poor individuals decided to do was get on a contraction that was not tested, okay, and unfortunately they lost their lives, okay, and it's sad, and they only had about 70 to 90 hours of oxygen in that device. So this distress or whatever you want to call it started on Sunday, and this is Thursday, which is more than 96 hours, which meant that whatever oxygen that they had was gone, which basically they suffocated to death. And there was a possibility perhaps there might have been power failure and things of that nature, which meant they could have suffocated to death. They could have been poisoned to death. Who knows? The bottom line is, unfortunately, it's five people lost their lives over something that, when you think about it, wasn't all that necessary. Wasn't all that necessary. And I just want to say, first of all, um, our hearts, our prayers, and our well wishes go to the families of these five people who lost fathers, brothers, sons, uncles, friends, cousins, so on and so forth. Okay. And it is a tragedy, uh, a real tragedy. And it's something, in my humble opinion, could have been avoided. Now, this is the thing. When you decide to go underwater, particularly you're talking about depths of 13,000 feet, uh, number one, you need to be properly trained because that's a total different environment. First of all, you're in confined quarters and you're um, basically breathing recirculated air and what have you, and the other things, to take into consideration. Also, you have to have the psychologically sound to put yourself through all that stress. Okay. Also, you have to make sure that the device that you're going to use to go down that deep has been tested again and again and again to make sure there is no mishaps. Because unfortunately, when you go down 13,000 feet and there's a mishap, I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to try to get a rescue. And the way I understand it, that the only way they were able to get out is that someone is going to have to pry the device open and get these people out. So they couldn't even. Okay, first of all, they were too far down. If they were to try to open the door or something, all that water would have rushed in and they would have drowned. So it is a sad tragedy. And then you and a tragedy because look, when you collectively, that was $1.25 million. Okay, can you imagine how much good that money could have done? Now I did some math. Okay, what $1.25 million? What they could have done is they could have provided scholarships of 500 people for $2,500, which could have gone to pay for textbooks. Okay, you could have feed the hungry. You could have built homes. I mean, there's many other things that you could have done with this money. But the real tragedy is that 5 lives were lost, and there was not, in my humble estimation, not enough safety protocols to make sure that these mishaps do not happen. Okay, it's one thing when you you fall into the pool and you don't swim, and there's lifeguards and people to help to rescue and what have you. It's another thing when you decide for whatever reason to enter into a contraction that's not been fully tested to make sure it's safe, okay, and seaworthy, and then you decide to go on this contraction 13,000 miles, 13,000 feet, to see the wreckage of a ship that was sunk 111 years ago. Excuse me. And let me tell you something. That wreck is also a graveyard for the poor souls that died, okay, that died on that ship. It's kind of like, okay, let me just see. I'm going to use this analogy. It's a little crude, but it fits. It's kind of like you going to St. Raymond Cemetery and you see the grave where my mother passed away, and you decide to have a picnic on the grounds where my mother was buried. That's literally what these people are doing, so to speak. And unfortunately, it cost them their lives. Okay. I think what we can learn from this situation is this. First of all, human life is very precious. Okay. Each human life. Okay. I don't care if you're the richest person or you're just a bum up the street. Every life has value. Okay. Every life can be changed, redeemed. Every life can be changed and what have you. And and it is a gift. Okay. And we're here for only a short time. If we're fortunate, we're here for about maybe anywhere between 70 to 80 years old. And if we somehow live past 80, we're blessed. So we need to learn how to value life. We need to learn to value ourselves. And we also need to learn to not take things so carelessly. Okay. I don't want to cast judgment on these because we don't know what was their motivation. Okay. What I will be doing is I will be having a stream on this topic Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. Okay. And to be honest, I was a little hesitant to discuss this topic, but I think it's important that we do discuss it and just make sure that we are careful and make sure that we value life. Okay, every life, and the fact of the matter is, no one should rejoice in their passing. Okay, and I mean it. No one should rejoice in the passing of the dead. Okay, what we should do is say for those of us who believe in prayer, keep the families of these people in prayer. And those who do not, let's see if we can send some positive vibes over their way. So, that being said, and I apologize, I don't usually talk this long. It's just that there's been so much chatter on it on TikTok and whatnot and all social media. So, I just wanted to give you my 2 cents about it. So, now after I talk my head off regarding this topic, we're going to get into the main topic. Okay, so as you can see by the thumbnail, the topic for tonight is why people choose not to marry. Okay, now let me just make this perfectly clear. There are multiple reasons people choose not to marry. Okay, there are those who, for whatever reason, can't see themselves being tied down to one person. And I think that's not a problem if you're honest about it. Okay? If you know in your heart of hearts that you don't have the ability to stay committed to one person or spend the rest of your life with one person, that's fine. Okay? Just be mindful of the consequences involved when you decide not to marry. Okay? Which makes having a family support base all the more important. Okay. Now, there are many reasons why people choose not to marry. Like I stated before, some people choose not to marry because they cannot stay committed to one person. Other people, it's they simply just don't believe in the state of marriage. And it's no. I have some who have been traumatized in a bad marriage or bad marriages or what have you. So there are multiple reasons why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. Let's just see what's going on. Yeah. Also, unfortunately, I noticed that it's been reported. Like I said, unfortunately, these people. So it is very, very sad indeed. Very sad indeed. And again, our hearts go about the families of these dear people um, who lost their um, family and whatnot, husbands and so on and so forth. So, any case, just give me a moment. So tonight I'm just gonna read because I have been having some technical difficulties and I don't want to like prolong it. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do to see. Just give me a moment. Okay, now I'm gonna share information on excuse me. Um, a website called blackdoctor.org. And in this article I'm gonna be sharing don't get married if you're guilty of these 5 things. So let me just read to you what is in this article. The success of your marriage depends on having a good foundation, meaning what you do before you say I do matters just as much as in your marriage as in what to do after with no pressure. Building a solid foundation with someone can be extremely difficult and is only getting more complicated in our modern society. According to the American Psychological Association, 90% of people in this country marry by the age of 50, but anywhere between 40 and 50% of them will end up in divorce at least once. The rate are just as high for the Black community. We have the second highest rate of divorce in the US behind Native Americans. A lot of millennials look at these numbers with the current state of dating world and throw it in the towel. But I don't think the Institute of Marriage is and hopeless for the future generation. I just think marriages that fail are marriages that should never started. Oh God, I have to the wrong. Excuse me, I'm just going to grab something to drink because I'm getting thirsty. Okay. And I have mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention this again for, you know, there are many reasons why people choose not to marry. So, oh brother. But don't worry, there's always ways to ensure that the marriage will build to last. You'll be off to a good start as long as you don't get married if you're guilty of these 5 things. Okay. Number 1, you haven't had the big convos yet. During the whirlwind of dating, a few details can get lost in the infatuation and passion of a new romance. This reminds me of Sex of the City character Miranda Hobbs remarking to a couple of face-sucking brunette. Yeah, it's all hot 3 days in. After the adrenaline rush of the engagement, the excitement of wedding planning and the romance and the honeymoon phase fade, you'll be left with regular, check, gula, everyday life. When the glitz and glamour fade, you'll need to make sure you know and like the person you're pledged to spend your life with. So make sure that you have not so glamorous talks with your partner or about the things people typically have strong opinions about: religion, managing finances, roles in relationship, and whether or not to have children. If there are conflicting views on one or two of these topics, a serious rift in any marriage can grow. Journalist Naomi Schaefer Riley, in her book To Faith Do Us Part, interfaith couples have the highest divorce rates after drawing from national surveys and numerous conversations with couples, religious leaders, and their own personal experience. Showing people tend to underestimate how important religion is going to be later in life. When it comes time to raise children, celebrate holidays, etc., upbringing, and pass down religious traditions with service. This goes for opinions on financial issues, whether or not they have children. These can have deep-rooted ideas we hold, but never think about until we're confronted with the situation. A difference in beliefs isn't always automatic grounds for divorce, though. These problems can be worked through communication, respect, and compromise. However, issues like whether or not to have children can be non-negotiable for some people. It's very important to have this conversation early and have a clear expectation so you don't enter a marriage with false pretenses. Number 2, you're doing it because it's the right thing. Babies are a blessing, but they can put a strain on the healthiest relationships, especially when unplanned. Many couples feel pressured either by society, their family, or themselves to make things more serious when an unplanned pregnancy happens. 30 years ago, the shotgun wedding was much more popular, according to Brides.com. About 30% of couples who found themselves unexpectedly pregnant got married as a result. Ultimately, when this happens, it usually leads to moving in together. Of course, living together could still lead to marriage, but it usually just leads to a long-term relationship. Stagnant long-term relationships, either from being together or after an unplanned pregnancy or being with someone with a child, Also, not a good reason to get married. Sometimes we stay in long-term relationships because we feel that leaving will prove that we wasted our time, or that eventually we will receive a return on our investment of time by getting married. This often leads to resentment and further breakdown of the relationship. These two reasons aren't good enough motivation to enter a lifelong commitment with someone. Marriage should be proposed as a result of love and the longer they share their life together, not as an obligation or an ultimatum. Okay. And before I continue, I just want to let everybody know that the link to join the panel is in the chat. Also, I pinned the link as well. Okay. The number third reason you should not consider getting married, you aren't willing to be flexible. When you decide to share your life with someone, you have to realize that you are doing just that, sharing. This means that the decision process behind many actions will involve the two of you rather than being up to the individual. This will take a lot of personal flexibility so everyone can remain content and fulfilled in the marriage. I'm also referring to big picture ideas such where you live, where you remain working, and how you establish parenting routine. You may never consider raising a family in any other neighborhood but your own, but your spouse wants to relocate for a new career. You should be open to the discussion. After all, married life is a new chapter in your new life where you have decided to leave your single self-driven life behind and move in unison with your spouse. Leave to cleave. Number four, you haven't discussed finances. Behind infidelity, financial issues are the most common reasons for divorce. Money affects almost everything around us, so financial problems can present themselves in many different forms. While dating, money is really an issue for most couples if they aren't living together. But in marriage, the stakes are raised considerably. Before you accept the ring, you should have a clear understanding. So just give me just give me a moment. Oh boy, I hate it when this happens. Uh, okay, I'm just gonna continue. Okay. This really boils down that you agree to work that was best for you. I think joining together financially can be one of the most difficult aspects of marriage for millennials than for previous generations, although it's difficult to live comfortably without two incomes in today's society. Most millennials are getting married much later in life. The longer you are single, the harder you can break yourself from the single frame of mind, which comes from money matters, so that makes the conversation extremely important to have. And number five, you don't know what their idea of a good spouse is. Interesting. Let's see. Okay. And I see we have Irby in the chat. Good evening, Irby. Thank you very much for stopping by. The topic for tonight is why people choose not to get married. And just for the sake of being transparent, I am currently divorced. Okay, I have been divorced for almost 10 years. I'm doing fine, thank you. Okay, and unfortunately, my marriage to my ex-wife did not work out. Okay, and let's keep it real. We were both guilty. Okay, I'm not gonna blame everything on the wife or the ex-wife and what have you. Like we're both responsible. Okay. A really big aspect of being in a relationship is be able to express yourself and be understood. Well, we don't often realize that in this way we can receive and express love can be different from a partner. Define love language is popular idea and a book about this concept. I think it's really important helpful to figure out why you have a conversation with your partner about it so you have gained a better understanding on how they love. This will allow you to receive and reciprocate in the way that they will understand. If not, you will leave the door open to a lot of miscommunication and angst. Expectations work the same way within relationship. Your partner may be under the impression that as long as they act as a provider, paying the bills and everything else, parenting, household chores, and even faithfulness is not important or optional when this is not an expectation of them. You may be expected to do all the housework, bills, etc. are shared between both of you, and the answer tasks be decided over as they occur. Some of these things may sound like a no-brainer, but it's amazing what you can assume about a person. Just because you get along and in love doesn't mean you hold the same beliefs and ideas on subjects. If we intend to repair the institute of marriage and avoid divorce court, we need to enter a marriage with a firm grip on reality and determination to put every work by being aware of expectation, being realistic, and communication. And I'm going to end it here. And let's see what Irby has to say. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? That is true. That is true. And, and I think it's part of the reason why people choose not to get married, but to live together. Um, no, of course, it's not the same thing today as it was years ago. Now in many cases, it's perfectly, what seems almost normal to be in living relationships and things of that nature. And of course, we have what I call domestic partners. Okay, which basically, for all intents and purposes, the couple function as a marriage, but without the marriage certificate. Okay, which is perfectly fine, and look, I happen to believe in in the institution of marriage, even though it did not work out for me. I mean, I still hope the belief that I will get married again, and if I don't, well, just have to deal with it. Okay. Now I'm going to share an article that was written on the website, on the University of Houston's website, and it's dated January the 11th of this year. And the name of the article: Why Are Women Opting Out of Marriage Around the World? Okay. And it was written by anthropologist Dana Hannaford. So let's see what she has to say. Hannaford makes it clear that the work is not a praise of women opting out of marriage. It's that it is a re-examination of the institution by anthropologists so they may understand what they miss by focusing on marriage as the norm. Diana Hannaford is an associate professor in anthropology at the University of Houston. Hannaford uses fine-grained anthropology and ethnography to offer fresh insights into the conditions, challenges, and opportunities of the 21st century. And I appreciate the fact that there's 9 people your industry. If possible, I like to have 9 likes, or at least two-thirds of it. And the cloud watchers, please hit the like button. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's not like I'm asking you to hit me up with a cash app. News headlines such as why more women are choosing to stay single now, craving freedom, Japan's women opt not out of marriage, nearly half the Canadians feel marriage is simply not necessary, and Chileans are marrying less and later, would make it seem like marriage is at a risk of survival all over the world. The numbers back up that assertion. In the United States, the median age of first marriage has risen from a 1956 low of 20.1 years for women and 22.5 years for men to 27.1 years for women and 29.2 years for men in 2016. The trend is global too. Currently, 89% of the population lives in a country where falling marriages rates. Donna Hanifer, Associate Professor Anthropology at the University of Houston, and her colleagues of anthropology were unsatisfied with the journalistic accounts and books on the matter, many which are focused on the US, and decided to dig deeper into the issue in the best way they knew how, through ethnographic accounts on women across the globe. This meant documenting the lives and marriages of women over the course of several years and in many cases, decades. As we anthropologists have more context and history of culture to see what this is all about, we can connect these stories to begin trends and changes in society in these countries. Now, let me just state some interesting items are in this magazine. Barbadian women refusing to remarry. Among the women studied were those in the small Caribbean country of Barbados who choose not to remarry following their divorces despite societal pressure and their peers' high view of marriage. For years, anthropologist Carla Freeman studied Black families who make up the racial majority of the country. Those families are mostly matrifocal, meaning the mother is the head of the household, and many of those mothers are unwed. White women in the Barbados live in a paradigm where they are seen as both symbols and guardians of the powerful and elusive value of complex of respectability in a country where most white women are soon to be married. Freeman followed three white Barbadian women for decades, some since they were young newlyweds, married and divorced. Two of the women's divorces were due in part to infidelity. Liana, one of the women, said, "I'm seeing more women, professional women, that are choosing to be single because they find it so difficult to have a faithful partner or people of their intellectual equal. As women become more empowered and work, they don't have to put up with the outside women and children. The women come to find the purpose and meaning through their childhood, children, extended family, hobbies, business, and social justice causes. Although their feelings vacillate from loneliness to frustration, they remain steadfast in their decision not to be married." Freeman writes that in the economic vulnerability they face with divorce, along with the loneliness and social marginality that sometimes feel sharpens their reliance upon an appreciation for the extended networks of kin and female friends. Interesting, these women come to reflect the independence and matrifocal of their Black counterparts. Um, Women also find emotional support through friendship and family. This work examines women who never married at all, those who divorced or became widowed and did not want to remarry, and women within a marriage who work to make the institution a more rewarding enterprise for both parties. For example, strategies statistically marrying husbands who spend most of their time abroad for work so the women have respectability of being married but avoid the day-to-day obligations of having a husband. Anthropologists are so focused on lineage and marriage, we don't think about how friendship plays a really important role in everyone's lives. Hannaford said. She and her team also found strong ties to women native families. In many of the societies they study, when women have the option of staying with their own family rather than moving with a husband, they prefer staying because they trusted their family never to abandon, cheat, or swindle them. Hannaford clarifies that work does not praise women for opting out of marriage. Instead, it's an invitation to think about what we miss as anthropologists by being so focused on marriage as the norm and good and natural outcome. So, no, this is just some things to consider. Um, now, as I stated before, there are many reasons why people choose not to marry. Okay, and some of them is because they went through the trauma of a messy divorce. Some of them, their spouses were deceased, and perhaps they had the belief that they're never going to find someone like the spouse that passed away. So that's the reason why. Now, what I'm going to do, excuse me. So what I'm going to, excuse me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share another article. Just give me a moment. Now, this is an article on a website called MBG, and the name of the article is called "It's Okay If You Don't Want to Get Married." Here's what to say to the haters. Now, I think it's very important this part because look, everyone. Maybe rephrase it. There are people who love the cast of aspersions and those that for whatever reason choose not to marry. Okay, what some of us fail to understand is it is their choice, it is their decision. They decide not to get married. Okay, and sometimes people do not respect their choices, and people will try to fixing up with somebody on the unlikelihood that perhaps the person might change their mind. Okay. I think it's kind in a way kind of disrespectful. Okay. Now, if a person is honest and chooses not to marry for whatever reason, the best thing to do is to simply respect their choices. Okay, respect their choices and let them live their lives as they see fit. Okay, what what is a big mistake is that somehow we think these people are going through a class crisis simply because they choose not to marry. Okay, and one thing we have to bear in mind: we don't know what trauma they went through. Okay, so there's a lot of factors involved why people choose not to marry. And you know what? It's perfectly fine. Okay. It's okay if you want to get married. It's also okay if you choose not to get married. It's all up to you. Okay. It's not up to your friends. It's not up to your family. It's not up to your children. It's not up to your co-workers or anybody else. It is up to you. Okay. So with that being said, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna share this article. And oh, wait a minute. We also have Mando in the chat. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. Can we just have one stream without the worky references? Okay, this is not Star Wars. Okay, uh, let's just let's just chill out on that. Okay, so now we're gonna deal with how to deal with the haters once they find out that you decide not to get married or remarried. Okay, so let's stay off the Star Wars channel. Okay. If you're pretty sure that you don't want to get married, you're certainly not alone. Marriage rates have declined over years as fewer and fewer people are opting to get married. But despite the general trend, there's still some folks who still feel shame around saying, I don't want to get married. Here are some helpful statistics and explanations for why some people don't want to get married, plus how to deal with people who eventually question you over it. More people are saying that they never want to get married. Years ago, getting married and having children was the expectation, but over the last 2 decades, those expectations have shifted with fewer and fewer folks considering marriage as a necessity. A 2017 report from the Pew Research Center found 1 in 7 people who have never been married before don't want to get married ever, and another 27% of the people unsure how they feel about marriage. Okay, and let's see what we have here. You know what? I have no idea. I have no idea whatsoever. We'll see. A 2019 Pew report found just 17% of people think marriage is essential. For women who have a fulfilling life, and for that figure, it's 16%. And 3 out of 10 people think getting married is simply not important. One reason for that is the increased acceptance of living with a long-term partner without marriage. 55% of adults ages 18 to 29 think couples are just as well off if they stay together without getting married, compared to 45% who think long-term couples ought to get married eventually. And 69% of all of those say cohabitation is just fine with or without plans to get married. Now, we're going to get into the reasons why. Okay. There are plenty of reasons some people decide they don't want to get married, ranging from past traumas or finances. Whether your partner does not want to get married or you're not the one with the apprehension about marriage, here are good things to consider. Number 1, you are more focused on your career. Some people are generally more career-oriented. Marriage and other long-term committed relationships can take up a lot of time and attention, and some people aren't interested in dividing their energy between work and romance. This isn't to say that having a career and getting married are always mutually exclusive endeavors. Some people are just care more about one than the other. In the past, women and feminine identified people were expected to get married instead of have a career. So today, some women opt for a more career-centered life as a way of directing which I think those expectations. Number 2, bad experiences with marriage in the past. Relationships can be hard work for some time, and long-term relationships can make committing to someone for life unappealing. For those who have trouble sustaining healthy relationship, legally binding yourself to another can be scary. Alternately, some people may have witnessed a lot of failed marriages around them, having parents with a troubled marriage or making marriage seem less appealing. Number 3, refusal to get married. Again, the 2017 Pew report found 45% of people who have been married before never want to get married again. Some research suggests divorce rates for second marriages tend to be higher than first-time married couples. According to the Gottman Institute, there are many reasons ranging from potential issues around co-parenting and the access to the baggage and lack of vulnerability one can bring to a new relationship. For all these reasons, some people may choose not to get married again after having experienced one failed marriage in the past. Okay, number 4, a preference for non-monogamy. She's often tied to monogamy, aka a relationship where the expectation, both written and unwritten, is that emotional and physical intimacy is limited to 2 people. But there's a rise of the acceptance of practice of non-monogamous relationships, from polyamory to open relationships. The boundaries of these relationships vary depending on the individuals involved, but all include room for consensual engagement with emotional and sexual involvement with multiple partners. These relationships are focused not always on sex, but rather on freedom to give and receive love and emotional energy to more than one person, and it is not reflected in our current understanding of marriage. Polygamy, marriage between more than 2 people, is not legal in the United States. So some people who are in polyamorous relationships or other type of non-monogamy may choose to forego marriage altogether because it doesn't make sense in their relationships. Okay. Number 5, you view marriage as a patriarchal institution. The institution of marriage is steeped in heteropatriarchal history, with women considered to be the property of her father or family, to be given away in exchange of resources, alliances, and status. In marriage, women went from being the property of their father to the property of her husband. Even modern marriages have some lingering patriarchal influence, including the traditions of the father giving away the bride, the wife taking the husband's last name, and the marriage being treated as a marker for success among women. For some people, this complicated history makes marriages unappealing. Number 6, marrying your partner is not legal where you live. Same-sex marriages continue to be illegal in many places across the world. According to Pew, just 30 out of 195 countries has passed laws allowing for same-sex marriage. Marriage has often functioned as a way to validate and legitimize one relationship, and has often been violently come across at the expense, including queer folk, psychotherapists, Sabrina Salomon, and LNSW Taos, MBG. Now legal in the United States, this was not the case until 2015, undoubtedly changing the way that some queer people view long-term commitment. Number 7, financial reasons. Weddings are expensive, and so is divorce. Some people cannot afford the great financial risk that's involved with getting married. There are instances where some do not feel comfortable linking their finances to another individual, potentially due to credit, tax consideration, and other concerns. Social worker and therapist Crystal Kabijagu, MSW, also cite government-sponsored benefits as a strike against marriage for some. For those receiving disability, the individual being deemed to be dependent on another can negatively affect their income. Number 8, divorce rates. Additionally, divorce rates staying steady around 40 to 50%. Some folks want the freedom to simply leaving since the financial implications of a legal divorce. Studies have shown that working middle class is more concerned about the fiscal impact of divorce and the economic state of the country. Number 9. You don't need marriage to legitimize your relationship. Previously, legal matrimony was seen as the only way to commit your life to another person. So it says some couples no longer see the need to have a government approval of their relationship. They feel marriage is an institution that often bears no legitimacy on the foundation between them and their partners. Number 10. You feel marriages come with too many rules and expectations. Excuse me, just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. Oh boy. You know, look, the reality is this. As I said it before, not everyone is feel comfortable getting married, and it's something we have to bear that in mind. There are expectations that comes with marriage that may push people that they don't want to get married. There are also some antiquated and problematic tropes that comes with getting married. Again, your sex life declining or your freedom being limited. Plenty of married couples will argue with this, but considering the popularity of bachelor and bachelorette parties, there's certainly some people that think fun and games are completely over once you say I do. Even those who know that these tropes dramatize marital expectations, being tight and responsible to another adult for the rest of your life, they feel unappealing nevertheless. Number 11. You're just not interested in relationships. While some value commitment outside legal matrimony, there are some who simply aren't interested in relationships in general. Some are aromantic or asexual. People may be inherently uninterested in relationships in general. Other people simply have the desire to expend energy on other things. Most people who have been in any relationship, healthy or unhealthy, can attest that it's no easy feat. So we should be able to accept that not everyone values the outcome in the same way. Number 12. Okay. And I see there's not much chatter in the chat. Well, maybe people just want to clout watch, which is perfectly fine. Sometimes marriage isn't on the radar because there's no desire to be in a committed relationship. For some, it is hard to understand. We have been conditioned to believe that there's someone for everyone and that you couldn't possibly be content living into an old age without a romantic life partner. While seeing more of a refusal of this idea, with folks that being completely comfortable of a lifetime of solely casual relationships. Number 13, you are willing to get married to the right person, but otherwise it's not a priority. Some people are open to marriage, but don't actively seek it. They may not want to get married in any active way. They may not want to get married in an active way, but that isn't to say that they're actively opposed to marriage. In other words, they find themselves in meaningful relationship with someone who want to get married. They'll be willing to do it, but otherwise marriage isn't a personal goal for this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to share some considerations. Okay. Some people don't want to get married, but do want a long-term committed relationship. For some people, there's not much of a difference between long-term commitment and marriage. The primary difference is the legality. So for some people, whether or not they are bound by law does not determine their dedication to one person or the willingness the effort to make a relationship work. In terms of satisfactions between couples, integral parts of relationship like communication, sex, and work-life balance are very similar between married and unmarried long-term couples. A shining example, actress Goldie Hawn has been in a long-term relationship with actor Kurt Russell since 1983. Hawn and Russell were both previously married but have not made the decision to legalize the commitment in almost 40 years. Some people avoid. Okay, just one. Some people avoid marriage because of fear. Be wary of making decisions about marriage based on fear or family expectation. Everyone has ideologies and are passed down from their families of origin, some based on religion or tradition. Sometimes people are survivors of unhealthy family dynamics, and in an effort to avoid recreating those cycles, they avoid getting married completely. Just one moment. Jago says that in this instance, it is helpful to pause and interrogate one aversion to marriage. She recommends a therapy as a potential way to process these experiences and clarify your feelings on the matter. There can be issues with distorted thinking, such as catastrophizing. Just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. Just give me a moment, sorry. All or nothing thinking, whereby one is not able to assess the situation, is clearly due to belief systems. So therapy, one moment. So I'm sorry. So therapy may be an opportunity to challenge automatic towards more balanced thinking based on reality and techniques. Generally, therapy can be non-judgmental space, so some space whereby folks can reflect on the factors that may impact their views for and against getting married, including cultural, family expectation, and financial stability. Okay. There can be financial reasons to get married. Some people don't care about the institution marriage, may still want find benefits in getting married anyway, particularly legally and financially. For some consideration like insurance and tax breaks may sway your decision. This can be a situation where marriage can be helpful and beneficial to a couple. So says, they recommends that saying, why do I want to get married? How will I get married? Will inform how physically, emotionally, financially, or will not. What will getting married bring to a relationship? And another thing to bear in mind, some people make decisions about collective future and a couple. Some people may want to wait until they settle down settle financially and emotionally, and others simply change their minds over time with specific relationships. People may judge or rush your decision, but no one is required to make a decision before they're ready. Because it's always changing, adapting, and growing, our opinions have the ability to do as well. Now, this is going to be the final thing. How to deal with other people's reactions. While marriage talk may not arise in the very beginning of a relationship, it's important that you are upfront with your potential partner about your feelings, even they may change. Jocko says it's important to communicate the transparency from the beginning and throughout the interaction of potentiality of current partners to reduce the odds of any misunderstanding or party. Also, keep the lines of communication open. Remember that you're allowed to change your mind. Okay. Whether you decide is valid. Marriage is not the only option and certainly doesn't have to bear so much weight in your relationship. Your relationship is valid and legitimate without the institution of marriage, recognizing and acknowledging that, Saul says. You do not need to justify or explain your choice of relationship choice for not wanting to get married. It is okay to let people know you don't want to get married. People will always have their opinions, but you can rest assured then that your feelings are valid and that you're not obligated to work on anyone else's timeline or definition of community. Okay. Now, what I just described here, there are many factors why people choose not to get married. Okay. And again, let me make this perfectly clear. Okay. It's okay if you don't wish to get married. It's perfectly fine. And when everything is said and done, you are accountable to yourself and your higher power, whatever the higher power might be. And there are people who decided to maintain a long-term relationship in cohabitation. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. As a Christian, um, I believe it's preferable in marriage. However, we have to understand and we have to accept the fact that not everyone shares that point of view. We have to respect that. Okay? And we don't have to necessarily agree. Okay? But whatever we're going to do, we have to respect the opinions of views of others. Which means if people have made it perfectly clear of their own free will, without any hesitation or reluctancy, they choose not to get married, we're not doing them any favors by insisting that they get married. In fact, what we're going to be doing is we're going to make the prospect of marriage even less appealing, which is why it's very foolish to try to pressure people into marriage. Okay? Again, there are many reasons why people choose not to get married. And I want to make this perfectly clear. I'm not trying to denigrate the institution of marriage. What this whole stream, this calling show is about, is explain why people choose not to get married. Okay? And again, there are those that for whatever reason choose not to get married. There are people who 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 are not prepared to be committed to one person. And I say to those people, as long as you're honest and you're direct, that's perfectly fine. Okay. What is a problem is that when we compel people um, or try to compel people to get married when they made it perfectly clear that they don't have the desire and they don't have the interest in getting married. So that's been a topic. Now, before I do go, I do want to discuss what's going to be the streams for. Okay, okay, just leave me alone. Okay, so tomorrow night at 10:30 p.m. The topic of the topic for tomorrow's calling show will be more stupid games. Okay, now let me just explain to you um, what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do streams which are considerably later than what I normally do. As you notice that my streams during the week is usually around the time between 8 and 8:30. Tomorrow night's stream will be at 10:30 p.m., which for people in the West Coast, hopefully they'll be finishing dinner or maybe they'll be able to join the stream or watch the stream while having their meal. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking about in social media some of the real dumb things that people have done. Okay. And it seems like we have seen more and more Karens acting up, okay, and making a complete idiot of themselves. So, uh, we're gonna. So, also, it's an opportunity to loosen up and have a little bit more fun. Now, of course, I'm not going. We're going to not mention any names regarding some of the people involved in these stupid games because let's keep it real. We have a lot of people in these YouTube streets that have known to play stupid games. So we're not going to mention them here because first of all, we don't want to give these people any emotion than what they are entitled to. Okay, I mean, and it's kind of like us giving them free press, which is not we're not going to do that here. We're not going to do that here. So we're going to be discussing that on Sunday. We're going to be discussing the mishap regarding what happened with these 5 people that unfortunately perished during this horrible incident. And the name of this topic will be why? Why? Why did these people die? Why did these people took the risk and to get on a contraction that's not been certified safe? Why was it necessary for them to sign a whole bunch of waiver forms and what have you? I mean, it is a sad tragedy when you think about it. A sad tragedy. And again, our hearts go out to the families of these people who lost loved ones. Okay, our hearts go out to these dear people. And truth of the matter is, none of us can understand what they're going through right now. These dear people, unfortunately, are dealing with a great deal of pain and anguish, um, knowing that their loved ones are not returning home. So that's a very difficult time for these people. Now on Wednesday, um, we're going to be discussing this topic. Is Christianity an option? Now, let me explain to you, and please forgive me for the biblical term, the genesis of this topic. Um, Last night on Radical Latino Stream, the topic was regarding the high number of Latinos that were unalived by law enforcement. And during the discussion, Denise Gonzalez of Latin Spain raised an interesting point, which was that people need to develop a moral compass because many people are functioning without a moral compass. And while she is an atheist herself, one thing she acknowledged that those who observe Christianity and try to observe it, they usually have a moral compass and they're able to discipline their lives so they function within guidelines. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to have that discussion on Wednesday night. Now let me explain to you why the schedule is going to be a little different next week. Uh, Tuesday night, I'm going to be busy else, otherwise. So I'm not going to be doing a live call-in show on Tuesday night. I will be doing a live call-in show on Sunday night, Wednesday night, Friday. I just need to come up with a topic for next Friday's stream, or I might just do simply open discussion. Okay. So and so that's pretty now as we speak. I'm working on a new theme for season 6. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing some brainstorming this weekend because what I try to do is I try to come up with a different theme with a different season. Okay. So I think what I will do is I will work on possibly 3 possible themes for the next season. I will post it on my community tab, and then those who wish can cast a vote regarding which will be the theme. Okay, I don't usually do this, but the fact of the matter is, you, 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 I'm looking for some participation from the uncommon. So, with that being said, um, I'm sure other people will catch the stream on the playback. Okay, so also I'm going to try to come up with with some more topics based on what's happening on social media. So and of course every week I'm going to have my motivational moment. Okay, usually I will do that on a Tuesday, but no, I'll probably do it Monday. But in any case, again, I'm going to ask you if you have not done so, please subscribe to the channel. Um, Hit the like button, please, and set the bell notification to all. So therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to either catch it live or catch it on the playback. Okay. And one thing I have noticed lately that over 40% of my viewing audience is from 25 to 34 years old, which for being a baby boomer, I find it surprising. It's a pleasant surprise. So it seems like I'm reaching out to the younger generation. I do try to keep current. I also try to come up with topics that are relatable to other people. So that being said, I'm gonna wrap up this stream, being that there's no further chatter in the chat, and no one is gonna join the panel. Um, and to be perfectly honest, this has been the longest. I think it's been one longest streams when I've done the talking. Okay, and usually I don't talk for almost an hour and a half. But what I try to do is I try to have material ready, so therefore I can at least engage fully for an hour. So, so with that being said, um, I do appreciate all the people who appeared on the chat. Um, Don Armando, the 18th letter, Irby, and Keisha. Okay, and I believe, with the exception of Irby, all the other three, they do have YouTube channels. So I'm going to ask, if you have not done so, please check out their content, and please consider subscribing to all three of them, or at least check all three. Okay, at your leisure. Okay, and again, a huge shout out to you, Keisha, for your daughter's graduation, moving up ceremony. Okay, we do have to acknowledge milestones. Okay, particularly when it comes to our children. Okay, we have to acknowledge the milestones because of the fact that our children have been through a great deal these last 3 years with first of all dealing with COVID and having to go through significant time without being with their family and loved ones and friends and what have you, and not having what's considered a normal childhood, and having to go through all this time of wearing masks and social distancing and washing your hands for 20 seconds, and not being able to congregate with large groups of people. All these things have, I'm sure, taken that toll on others. So that's just something that we have to acknowledge, okay? And also, we have to acknowledge the fact that many of us have had lost people during the COVID 19 pandemic, either because of COVID, or because of other health conditions, or people that have been made alive. So these are things. So I just want to say that our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts to all those people that had to experience loss for the last 3 years. Okay, and it's kind of normal, but not exactly normal. So, are we ever going to go back to everything what was prior to COVID-19? I doubt it. Um, because, as you can see, many businesses have been ended, and millions of lives have been affected in one way or another due to COVID 19. But I think what it does do is it does serve as a lesson that we all need to be mindful of life. We need to treasure life. We also need to treasure all those that we hold near and dear. Okay, because the fact of the matter is, tomorrow is not promised to anybody. Okay, and I learned that particularly in 2020, that within a 6 month time period, I lost my oldest sister and my mom to illness. So I would suggest that you try to treasure life. You try to treasure those who are in your inner circle. Treasure your loved ones. Treasure your good friends. Also, if you have any issues when there's an estrangement between you and your loved ones, if you can, try to be reconciled with them because once they're gone, any opportunities of a reconciliation also goes with them. And the last thing you want to do is to go through the rest of your life with the fact that you are unable to resolve those issues. Okay. So, again, I do appreciate everyone who watched this live. And also, I appreciate all those who will catch it on the playback. So, that being said, I just want to say let's be good to each other. Okay? So, we will reconvene tomorrow night with another topic. And this has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Wishing all of you good night. Take care and peace.